Triple Crown winner, a Breeders' Cup winner, a horse of a lifetime!
Hello and welcome to Tournament Talk on the Tournament Edge for Friday, February 12th. I'm Bobby Shoemaker, and of course that's Barry, the Sniper Spears. As always on the docket, 4 races, and this week Barry and I are going to stay in the state of Florida. We'll do 2 races at Tampa Bay on a very nice card, and of course we'll do half of the show at Hollandale Beach, Florida, at beautiful Gulfstream Park. But Barry, we'll kick things off at Tampa Bay Downs, race 9. It's a mile and 40 yards on the dirt for 3-year-old fillies. It's a $100,000 stakes race, a very dynamic race, but nevertheless a field of 12. And Cosmic Girl, the 7 horse, is your 3-1 morning line favorite.
Yeah, this is a really interesting race. There's a lot of options in here. Now, Cosmic Girl, who you mentioned, probably will be the favorite from what I can see. It's probably a deserved favorite, actually, to even take it a step further. Has ran 2 really improved races since Halloween, since the layoff, which, has really stepped up her game, so to speak. The barn has good numbers with this kind of stretch out, but it wasn't really much, in a sense for me personally, to grab into in a race like this. I'd like to see a little bit more. I mean, this horse is definitely going to be favored, but, this is the kind of horse that I would personally like to beat me. Just not much to grab onto, even though the horse has improved, has every right to win this race, but just not for me in this spot. So next, Smart Shopping, the 11 horse, is the next horse that I'd like to talk about. Had a nice professional debut. Got some mud kicked back in her face. Ran a bang-up race, to be honest with you. Training forwardly for this, stretching out for the first time. It may also be kind of a short price, which is a little bit unfortunate in this race because you get horses like this that are on the improve that might be good prices, but I don't suspect this horse is actually going to be a pretty good price. Right. And one of the rules not rules, but one of the guys that I like to have is never to bet a horse doing something for the first time at a short price. And that one kind of fits that mold here. The horse I did actually go to is the 4, Crystal's Cantata, who ran well on the turf, has improved. If you look at the past performances, improved every time out. So that's definitely a pattern that I like to see out of horses like this in a race like this, because there's not really a whole lot of world beaters in here. Cosmic Girl looks kind of tough, but can get beat. Should be well placed. I mean, I think the rider could be anywhere he wants to be with this kind of horse. Doesn't necessarily need to lead, but can be close up. The barn is excellent this year with these kind of runners. So I'm going to take that horse here on top, just thinking that she might get first run and work out a pretty good trip from the 4 spot.
Yeah, not a lot of world beaters in here by any stretch of the imagination, Barry. And quite frankly, a race like this is very difficult to read because there's not necessarily a lot of talent for a stakes race. And there's also a lot of horses stretching out to a distance in which they've never ran at before. I mean, I've counted at least 5 or 6 horses here that are have either run less than a mile or have run just at that mile distance, and they're stretching out. I read this pace as being super hot just because a ton of horses stretching out. I think, when you have horses of this caliber, sometimes they don't like to pass each other, so I think jockeys are going to be trying to vie for position early in the race, and I just think it's going to be a highly contested pace, and I think the 7 horse is going to be compromised because of that, Barry, and at a short price, like you said, doing something that she hasn't done before, I think you have to look elsewhere, and I ended up landing on the 8 horse, Hey Girl Hey. And the reason I do that, and I'll explain to you and the viewers now, if you start back to November 25th at Gulfstream Park West in the maiden claimer, she wins in a hand ride, draws off. To me at that point, and I went back and watched the video just on that race alone, looked like she wants more distance. I think you can kind of see that on paper as she gets better and better as they go. You can throw out the next race on the line. 2 starts back January 15th at Tampa Bay, going 7 furlongs, hung 4 wide. Again, horses of this caliber, when they have trouble early, sometimes they have trouble overcoming that. And I just think you have to throw that race out. The race that stands out to me is the last race. She goes at this distance, Barry, which is what I think she's wanted to do the entire time. She runs a whale of a race for how I calculate things on paper. She wins by 6. She could have won by 8. I think this is the distance she wants. I think she's going to take advantage of sitting in that second to third tier group of horses while horses stretching out for the first time wear each other out. I don't think they're good enough to run a hot pace and make it last. I think she sets a perfect trip. She runs anything back to what she did her last race. And I know it's stepping up. She runs anything back to where she did last time, and I get the pace set up that I'm thinking. I think the 8 horse is going to win this race at a decent price.
Yeah, no, definitely has every right to win it. And even further than that, which is funny, that we landed on horses out of the same barn. The 4 is also trained by Kathleen O'Connell, who's on a roll. I mean,
absolutely,
she's definitely having a great year so far. It seems like we're definitely going to be on one of these horses is going to be really live, maybe even both of them.
Right. Both of us landing on horses double-digit morning line, which is what Tournament Talk is all about. If we can find prices for you guys, we're going to do it. There's going to be situations where we just have to end up landing on a favorite or land on a short price horse to get you to the next round. But we kick things off with 2 double-digit morning line price horses. Barry on the 4 horse at Crystal's Cantata and Bobby Shoemaker on the 8 horse Hey Girl Hey. Any more thoughts, Barry, about this race before we move on?
No, I'm just looking forward to it. It should be a mad scramble and an interesting race and an exciting race to watch.
We're going to move on to the very next race on the Tampa Bay card. And let me just say, Barry, out of the 4 races, best race, most talent, hardest to read on paper for me. It's the Tampa Bay Race 10, as I mentioned. It's a mile and 16th on the turf for 4-year-olds and up. It's a grade 3 stakes race, $150,000 on the line. Barry, a lot of horses coming from a lot of different places. Some of them from New York, some of them from Churchill Downs. A field of 12. War Correspondent, the 1 horse, it's your 7-2 morning line favorite, coming second off the layoff with Johnny V aboard in the Clement barn. The numbers are there, the connections are there, so I guess you can kind of see why this horse did get the morning line favorite.
Yeah, definitely a deserved favorite here. The horse is fired pretty much every time out. Maybe not so much in the last race, but still, first out after being out for a few months, quite a few months to be honest.
Almost a year.
May have needed that race. So that horse has every right to step forward here and win. The only negative I see, this horse is a grade 3 winner in the past, has every right to win this race. The only thing is I'm not 100% sold that this horse wants to get the mile on the 16th. This horse, at least on paper, looks like a miler. Not saying that he can't get a mile on the 16th, but very lightly raced, things of that sort. It looks like this horse has a lot of physical issues to overcome quite a bit.
Barry, before we move on, I wanted to ask you, where do you think this 1 horse is going to be placed? Is this a situation where Johnny V is going to have to go early with this horse because closers drawing the 1 hole in a big field like this are up against it? I'm just asking what you think you see the 1 doing from a pace perspective early with Johnny Velasquez aboard.
I think he's going to have to be forwardly placed here and get a good stalking type trip. You got Speed and Sky Captain, even Reload on the outside. Sparket's definitely going to have some run. Even a horse like on really close to that horse, actually, on the inside there, a lot might be forwardly placed too.
And a major player.
Absolutely. That horse is definitely a major player in here, has run some bang-up races in the past. But I think War Correspondent is going to try to get a stalking trip here, not be too far back, and not pull the dead close.
Okay.
Because, like you said, that's not really an ideal trip for somebody in the one spot on the turf at Tampa. Now, the horse that was kind of a wild card here is Grand Tito, the 10 horse. Not really sure if this horse is going to end up in this spot. There's another race that we're actually going to go over later that this horse is entered in also, which is a lesser spot than this grade 3 here. So it'd be really interesting, and this horse might be a little bit of a key to what goes on in this race, because if this horse lands here, they obviously think they have a really good shot to win. The horse, in the past has been pretty damn good. I mean, grade 1, 2, 3s, just right around it. Not really winning all that much, but really coming close. Gets a little bit of a weight break here after that run on October 3rd at Keeneland on a yielding course that just didn't seem to like. So that horse has every right to bounce back off the layoff. The trainer has decent numbers off this kind of layoff. But, I'm not really sure that this horse is actually going to run in this race. The 11 horse actually looks interesting as well. Caribou Gardens. I actually picked this horse a few weeks back in an optional claimer, $75,000 at Gulfstream off the layoff for Josie Carroll. Comes into this I think just drew bad. Drew a bad post position for this style and is a pass for me. So I ended up, funny enough, on what I like to call is my homage to Andy Serling, the Feast or Famine Special. It's the number 2 horse, Old Time Hockey. This horse has some decent races in the past. In particular, last year, January 24th, in this same race. Ran a bang-up second at 24-1 to Lofty. Looks like a similar type move this time. Actually ran a little bit earlier off the layoff in the last race at the Sunshine Millions on a good turf that I don't think this horse liked. Ran on good turfs before and didn't really do much. So what I'm going to think today, or actually on Saturday, this horse is training well. I think this horse just kind of has a little bit of affinity for Tampa Bay Downs, and Tom Proctor really gets this horse ready. So I'm going to go with the Feast or Famine Special, Old Time Hockey.
Barry Spears on the 2-horse Old Time Hockey 8-1 morning line. I think you'll get every bit of that. As I mentioned, Barry, I thought it was a great race. I didn't have a strong opinion because, first of all, there's a ton of horses in here. I couldn't read the pace that well. A lot of different angles to go. You can make a case for almost all of these horses that could win. And I also went with the Andy Serling Special, the Feast or Famine. I landed on the 5-horse Special Envoy at 15-1 morning line. The horse had run competitive in a Grade 3 stakes race last summer at Monmouth Park. And I understand Monmouth Park's not Saratoga, but what is? And was very competitive in a race like that. The numbers are similar. And here's what really did it for me. 109 days off the layoff. Comes back at Tampa Bay Downs. $28,000 allowance race, and was in a very hot pace, was in a very fast race, and held its own and almost won the race. Beat a 1.75 miles. And what does the connections do? Step this horse up in a graded stakes race. That race was the fastest race on paper for how I calculate than any horse in this race what they've been running prior. Whether it was graded stakes races, Barry, or not, this horse was in the fastest race. I'm not sure if it was a formality where we're not going to see something, a repeat close to that. But again, when you don't have a strong opinion, and I like to stress to the viewers, I know a lot of people, when they don't know what to do, they just go with the chalk. Well, the bettors like this horse. The guys on TV are taking the favorites. I'm going to do it. I was raised in a family where you take a stance in a race like this if you don't have a strong opinion. Go after a long shot. I like the second off the layoff angle. You know that. I like the way this horse looked off the layoff 109 days, and the numbers are better than any other horse for that particular race. I don't know where this horse is going to be, Barry. I don't know if it's middle of the pack, stalking trip. Jockey has decent numbers at Tampa Bay. So does the trainer. I'll roll with Special Envoy. If I get this horse home, my goodness, you're talking about, could I repeat in the 20K this week?
Exactly.
And if the 1 horse wins, which I think's got a strong possibility, what are we looking at? 2-1, 5-2? Okay. Yeah. But I don't think the 1's a lock. If I thought he was, guys, I would take the 1. I don't think the 1's a lock. I'll roll with the 5. maybe can repeat the performance and upset this field, and I'll be sitting in first place in the 20K.
Yeah, I mean, definitely worth a shot in a race like this, especially. Well, there's two things that really stood out to me looking at this horse. First is the last race that he ran at Tampa. He was the chalk.
Right.
He was favored in that race.
9-5.
And didn't run bad.
No, off of a 3-month layoff, Barry.
Exactly. And has every right to improve off of that. Also, Delacour and Centeno, that trainer-jockey combo, they hit at 30%. They know what they're doing. And also, in a race like this, you can get a rider's race type scenario, where having a top rider like Centeno on your horse can actually get you over the top and may be the difference in that horse winning and losing. So there's no doubt about this horse has a really good shot here.
And you bring up great points, Barry, and something else I'd like to add. Sometimes it's what a difference a year make. And maybe the 3 months off is what this horse needed. I mean, maturity. I mean, the horse is now 5 years old. The horses tend to hit their peak. A lot of them hit their peak 5 and 6 year olds. There's no question, Barry, how I look at things, and it's been very successful for me at this distance, on this type of surface. Unbelievable race compared to what it's been running before, and I could not let this horse go off at that price and beat me, because this is how I do things, and this horse could make me a lot of money on Saturday.
Absolutely.
So we're going to move down to Barry Spears' favorite racetrack. It's Gulfstream Park. It's race number 9 on the card. It's 1 16th on the turf for 4-year-olds and up. An allowance optional claimer group, a $48,000 purse, another field of 12. And this is where Barry was talking about earlier. Grand Tito is entered in this race. This is where I expect Grand Tito to be, in my opinion, Barry. And he is currently your 4-1 morning line favorite. If he is in this race, is this where you're going?
Absolutely not. Although, the horse does fit better in this scenario here in race 9 at Gulfstream rather than that grade 3.
Right.
Just because of the horses that are involved. Fits more here with these type rather than those grade 3 types. Although the horse can run,
right.
This is definitely a softer spot. And like you said, I expect Grand Tito to run here rather than at Tampa, but still got to keep an eye on that. Again, the horse is going to be favored here, or one of the top 2 choices, I think, first or second choice. His numbers kind of stand out a little bit, at least consistency-wise. He's running great races time and time again. Still a little bit of a mystery to me, if this horse really wants to win this race, or is there another one down the road that they really want to go after. That's my only reservation with this particular horse.
I agree.
And why I'm going to kind of side elsewhere. Now, the inside horse is really interesting to me with rhythm. Christophe Clement riding Paco Lopez. First time, off of a brief freshening. Nice win at Gulfstream at a mile. They're stretching out a little bit further today. But this horse is kind of the X factor, because it could be the trip horse here. Right. However, I'm not really too keen on the horse actually going this trip. Not really sure where this horse fits with this kind of company. One at lesser, a $62,000 optional claimer. I'm going to try to make this horse beat me, especially at a price. If this horse gets bet a little bit, which certainly might. Just looking at the past performances and his work he did in France.
Right.
I'm expecting him to be a little bit shorter than his morning line price, and I want to side elsewhere. Money Talker is another horse that really looked interesting to me, the 7. Woodbine Invader has been running pretty decent races. Actually won last year here in the Mac Darima. Finished a bang-up 4th at 39-1. Seems to like this track a little bit. Although has not won at this track. Has won at the distance. Josie Carroll, again, she's very good at getting horses ready off the layoff, so I wouldn't be surprised if this horse gives a good account. So that leaves me to the horse that I actually selected, who is number 2, Green Grass of Wyoming. I just think this horse, I've bet this horse quite a few times and been disappointed. But the horse fits very well with this company. I think, it's one of those classic situations where, like in baseball, where the horse isn't really good enough, or the guy or the catcher, let's say, is really good, but not good enough for the majors and would kill AAA pitching.
Right.
Kind of a 4A horse. And that's where I put Green Grass of Wyoming. I think this horse fits very well with this type. The numbers for Michael Thompson are very good with these types, getting his go-to rider. I think this horse is sitting on a really good race. Been training steadily, not too great. I think this one is sitting on a nice race here on Saturday.
I read this race as being another one that has a lot of pace, and I think the 11 horse, who scares me, by the way, because you know how I like to bet horses on the front end. And by the way, turf course firming up, and I saw on Thursday 2 horses running very fast races, 2 turns on the turf, and they lasted, including a Javier Castellano Chad Brown horse that went off at 6-5 and went 49 and change, going a mile and a half, and he still won the race. So my point is, the turf course now firming up, guys. You're going to see more horses on the front end with the right trip and the right jockey win more races. And the 11 horse ships from Tampa, Barry, and run a heck of a race last time. Very similar situation to the 5. I did not go with the 11, but the 11 scares me, Barry, and I think the 11 is going to be leading a very fast pace around the racetrack. I ended up landing on the 6 horse. My point exactly. Another double-digit morning line horse for us. 15-1. Not much to say other than the fact that outside the last race, Barry, where in my opinion was completely outclassed and wrapped up early to where the numbers didn't show how good of a race he could have run. For this group is what I'm referring to. He's been very consistent. He's had a win and 2 third-place finishes. It's a horse that runs well here, that I know is going to be forwardly placed, not on the lead, but it's going to be near the lead, and I'm hoping doesn't get caught up in that pace duel, because if it doesn't, turning for home, it's going to get first run on the closers. And, has won here July 25th. Ran well at Gulfstream Park West. Like I said, beat 7 1/4 last time, but doesn't show how well the horse actually ran. I can't believe this horse is 15-1 morning line. I really can't. But I'm not going to complain, and don't tell anybody, Barry, because I'm going to bet this horse at the window. I mean, if I get 15-1, anything near that, I'm taking this horse at the window. Maybe it's a horse that doesn't like to win, just likes to run in the money. But I think the pace could set up for this horse. And if Juan Leve can give this horse a good ride, which I know I'm banking on a lot there, I think the 6 horse could be a major player. So I'll go with my point exactly, and I'm going to use the 6 and 11 in my pick 4s and also in any kind of trifectas, because if I can get that 11 home with the 6, just turning my cell phone off.
Exactly, because it's going to be blown up.
Right.
But yeah, the 6 is getting some needed class relief here.
Right.
Been running against a lot of good horses. Watch Your Own Bobber, Golden Rifle, who in these spots, those 2 horses in particular would be 1 to 2 maybe.
Think about what Golden Rifle would do to this group.
Yeah, they would absolutely destroy this group. So again, and running competitively with those 2 horses amongst others. So at least when I read this race, I didn't think 15-1 was going to be the price. I was thinking more 7-8-1.
I'll take that.
But that's still, yeah, exactly. That's nothing to shake a stick at. But that horse definitely with the class relief has every right to win this race. The barn's a little bit cold, but horses win races, not trainers.
Right. Just worried about the jockey, Barry, a little bit. I wish we could have gotten a better jockey. But if you look at the past before the last race where Javi was on him, Leve's been on him, and he's run the races, which is why I'm betting him today. So we'll roll with the Barry, you're on the 2 horse. I'm on the 6, 2 more double-digit morning line horses. Last, but certainly not least, for Tournament Talk, on Friday, February 12th, it is Gulfstream Park, race 11. It is a 5-furlong turf sprint. I picked this race. I normally don't pick races like this, but I found this to be another intriguing race. It's for 4-year-olds and up, a $44,000 purse, an optional claimer allowance company, a field of 12. All 4 races we did, a field of 12, by the way. Deterrent, the 10 horse, drawn on the outside, your 7-2 morning line favorite. Quickly before you get into this race. My first instinct about a horse drawn to the outside, Barry, like the 10 horse being your morning line favorite. We saw it the last week, and it started my role in the 20K with the Julian Leperoux horse on the outside. Here's the key in a race like this, though. You got to be fleet of foot early. I mean, the 10 horse is you got to make a decision here. You either go to the lead or you get to the second pack and you make one run. That's just what it's got to be, and I think the 10 may run a risk here, but you go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to have a lot of really differing views of this race because I thought this was what the viewers probably have heard me say before.
Captain Obvious special. I knew
right,
you were saying
and like you said, you pinpointed it just like Power Alert last week.
Power Alert. Yeah.
Deterrent is definitely going to sit a similar trip, albeit he's a little bit cheaper than a lot of these horses in the race. He ran a huge race, and I actually bet him that day on New Year's Day, and he just ran off at a good 7-1 that day. But something's telling me this horse is topped out that day. Just ran probably the best race he could possibly run. I mean, they ran a 20-4 quarter, 43-4 half, and ended up 55-4 for 5 furlongs. I mean, even adjusted times, that's still pretty damn quick. And I don't think any of these horses can do that. I don't think the pace scenario really sets up, but he kind of stands out a little bit. But I'm not taking him as the pick. I went to the other Captain Obvious horse, who is the 4 Descent. I think he's going to sit a similar trip, just going to get a more inside run. There's a lot of speed in here that I think is going to just go breakneck, and I think Descent is really going to make a good run and finish this race off and win hands down.
And Luis Saez has found himself lately. He's catching fire, and he's been consistent, and he seems to be getting horses, especially on the lawn, in position to win races early, which I've come to realize, Barry, at this place, you just got to be in position early unless you've got a world beater, because it's a very tough turf course to maneuver around, especially with solid fields, deep fields, and especially a short race like this. Barry Spears on the 4 Descent, Bobby Shoemaker on the 4 Descent. For a lot of the same reasons that you said, Barry, I'm a hard play against the 10. I don't care what he run last time. This horse is drawn way outside with other speed to the inside of him, and he's outclassed. And I don't pay attention to class as much as you do, but class has got a little bit something to do with it here. I mean, no way. I'm a hard play against this 10, and I will apologize to everyone via Twitter on Saturday if this 10 wins, because this 10 is not winning. The 4 horse is going to set a perfect trip with a jockey hotter than white fire, and if he runs back to that race August 27th at Saratoga, the race will be over at the 16th ball. This horse is much the best. I think the layoff, Barry, was what this horse needed, because he ran 2 bang-up races in a row, and horses like this just need a layoff. He's the class. He'll set the best trip. He's got the hottest jockey on the grounds right now, other than Javier Castellano, which is on a different level every day. So we just don't pretend he's there. We'll talk about everybody else. The 4 horse is absolutely much the best. I think he's the standout of the 4 races that we picked. However, he's not going to be my pick of the show, because I don't want my pick of the show to be a 4-1 shot. So
exactly.
I
mean, my notes here that I was writing about Descent, it says basically what I said was the horse has shown ability to rate, and the 2 races that stood out to me were the 2 Saratoga races, August 5th and August 27th. If this horse runs anywhere near those 2 races, this horse should win.
And not only does he prove he's not just a horse for course, he goes to Belmont Park and runs his eyeballs out too. And I think if he wasn't run to death at Saratoga those 2 races, he probably wins that race. This horse is winning. We can just move on. You pick your play of the day or your play of the show before I give you mine.
All right, my play of the day happens to be old-time hockey, my Feast or Famine special at Tampa Bay Race 10.
Well, I'm going to go to Tampa Bay Race 10 as well, and it's so funny that our Feast or Famine specials are our picks of the day, but I'll go Special Envoy the 5, 15-1 morning line, as I'll rehash, guys. He runs back, and as Barry agreed, If he runs back to that race, he's a major player and could change the complexity of any tournament you're in. So that'll do it for Tournament Talk for Friday, February 12th. I'm Bobby Shoemaker, and once again, that's Barry, the Sniper Spears. And until next week, and as always, good luck.